The old wooden doors of the courthouse creaked open, and sunlight poured into the grand hall like a spotlight searching for truth. Inside, every bench was filled lawyers, reporters, curious townsfolk, and a dozen skeptical eyes, all fixated on one fragile figure, a little girl, no older than 11, standing at the very front of the courtroom. Her dress was faded, her shoes were worn thin, her voice carried something more powerful than wealth or status. "Please," she whispered, her small hands trembling as she clasped them together. "If you free my dad, I'll heal you." The words fell into the silent air like a stone into still water. For a moment, nobody moved. Then, like a wave breaking, the courtroom erupted with laughter. Reporters chuckled, scribbling down their notes as if they had just been handed a comedy headline. A few jurors shook their heads in disbelief. Even the bailiff, a man hardened by years of grim testimonies, let out a stifled snicker. At the center of it all, presiding over the court, sat Judge Raymond Hollis. His face was stern, lined with age and authority. He had once been a commanding figure, tall and strong, but now confined to a polished wheelchair after a tragic accident. His presence seemed both diminished and intensified. His paralysis was no secret half. The town whispered about it, and many pitied him. Yet Judge Hollis despised pity. His eyes narrowed as he looked at the child before him. "You think," he said slowly, his gravelly voice echoing through the chamber, "that you can heal me?" He leaned forward slightly, his hands gripping the armrests of his chair. "Child, this is a court of law, not a stage for fairy tales." The girl's lips quivered, but she did not look away. "I know what I can do," she said. "Please, just give my daddy a chance." Her words pierced through the murmurs, but they only fueled more laughter. One of the attorneys leaned toward another and muttered, "This is ridiculous. They should escort her out." Another snorted. "Maybe she thinks she's some kind of prophet."
Oh.
But the girl stood firm. She wasn't just pleading for her father's freedom. She was daring to promise the impossible. Her name was Lily Carter, and everyone in that courtroom knew her father, Ethan Carter, a man with rough hands and weary eyes, accused of theft. The prosecution painted him as a criminal, a desperate man who had stolen money from the very same diner where he once worked to provide for his daughter. The evidence was stacked against him: shaky camera footage, missing bills, and the testimony of a wealthy business owner who claimed Ethan had been caught red-handed. But Lily saw her father differently. To her, he wasn't a thief. He was the man who sang her lullabies when she couldn't sleep, who fixed her shoes with old thread because he couldn't afford new ones, who skipped meals so she could eat. Now he sat at the defendant's table, shackled, shoulders slumped, eyes glistening with shame. He had begged Lily not to come to court, not to make a scene, but the little girl's heart wouldn't let her stay away. "Daddy didn't do it," she cried, her small voice trembling against the vastness of the courtroom. "He's a good man. He's all I have." Her words echoed louder than any evidence. Judge Hollis tapped the gavel once, silencing the crowd. "Order! This is not a place for dramatics. The trial will proceed as intended." "But, Your Honor," Lily pressed, tears brimming in her eyes, "I promise. If you let him go, I'll make you walk again." Gasps rippled through the room. Some chuckled. Others scoffed. A reporter whispered eagerly, "Oh, this is gold. Wait till the morning paper gets this headline." The judge's face darkened. His condition was the one subject he despised being mocked for. He had endured countless stares, pitying glances, and whispers behind his back, but never had someone, least of all a poor child, dared to claim they could undo what doctors said was permanent. "You dare mock me in my own courtroom?" Judge Hollis thundered, slamming the gavel again. "This is contempt. I'm not mocking you." Lily shouted, her voice suddenly sharp and desperate. "I mean it." Her small fists clenched and her thin frame shook with conviction. Everyone fell silent again, stunned by the sudden fire in her words. Judge Hollis stared at her, searching for some hint of deceit, but all he saw was raw, unfiltered determination in her young eyes. Still, he would not be moved. "Sit down, child. You will not interrupt these proceedings again." The bailiff approached her, gently touching her shoulder. "Come on, little one," he murmured. You need to step back." Lily's eyes filled with tears, but she allowed herself to be led to a bench at the back. She turned once to look at her father, and he gave her a weak, pained smile that seemed to say both thank you and I'm sorry. The trial resumed, but the air in the room had changed. That small promise lingered like a ghost no one could ignore. As testimonies rolled on, Lily sat quietly, her hands folded, her lips moving in silent prayers. She watched the prosecutor, a tall man with slick back hair and an air of superiority, spin his words like a web. He spoke of Ethan Carter as if he were trash, undeserving of mercy. He painted him as a failure of a man who had resorted to crime, and who suffers the most. The prosecutor said, gesturing dramatically toward Lily, "This poor child is born into poverty, now burdened by a father who cannot provide." The words stung Lily's ears like venom. How dare he use her pain as his weapon? She wanted to scream, to tell the world her daddy wasn't what they thought. But she stayed silent. Judge Hollis listened, his expression unreadable. His paralysis had taught him the art of stillness, but inside, he felt the echo of the girl's words gnawing at him. Heal me. It was absurd, impossible. Yet why had it unsettled him so deeply? When recess came, the courtroom buzzed with chatter. Reporters huddled together, replaying Lily's promise. Jurors exchanged glances, some shaking their heads, others looking uneasy. In a corner, Lily sat alone, swinging her legs nervously. A woman beside her whispered, "Poor thing. She doesn't understand the world yet." Another man muttered, "She's delusional, just like her father." Lily bit her lip, fighting tears. She wasn't delusional. She knew. Somehow, deep down, she believed her words. Her father caught her gaze from across the room. He mouthed silently, "Don't cry, sweetheart." But Lily couldn't hold it in. She whispered to herself, "I'll save you, Daddy. I'll save both of you." The next session began, and Lily's humiliation grew. The prosecutor smirked as he made sly references to miracle workers and childish fantasies. At the time, the courtroom chuckled, fueling Lily's pain. Even the defense attorney, worn down and hopeless, avoided her gaze. Judge Hollis, however, found himself distracted. Each time he tried to focus on the case, Lily's words replayed in his mind. "I'll make you walk again. Impossible. Foolish." And yet why did her voice sound so certain? For the first time in years, doubt began to creep into his cold certainty by the end of the day. When court adjourned, Lily rushed to her father as the bailiffs escorted him away. She hugged his waist tightly, crying, "I won't give up, Daddy. I'll make them see." Ethan bent down, shackles clinking, and kissed the top of her head. "You're my miracle already, Lily. Don't you forget that." But as he was pulled away, Lily's resolve only grew. If no one believed her, she would prove it. Somehow, some way, and in that moment, Judge Hollis, watching from the bench, felt something stir in him, something he hadn't felt in years. A flicker of doubt, and perhaps a flicker of hope. The morning sun poured through the stained glass windows of the courthouse like molten fire, illuminating dust particles that danced in the air. As people shuffled back to their benches, whispers spread like wildfire. "That's the girl who said she could heal the judge. Poor thing, she doesn't know better. What if she actually believes it?" Lily Carter sat on the cold wooden bench, her small hands clasped tightly together. She ignored the whispers, though every word stung like a thorn in her chest. She fixed her gaze on her father, who was being escorted back into the courtroom, chains rattling with every step. Ethan looked worn, his once strong shoulders sagging beneath the weight of both shackles and shame. Judge Hollis wheeled himself in soon after, his presence commanding silence. His face was carved in stone, though his eyes briefly flicked toward Lily before he spoke. "Court is back in session." The prosecutor rose swiftly, his black suit gleaming, his smirk sharper than any blade. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, "today we peel back the final layer of this case. By the end, you will see without a doubt that Ethan Carter is not a man deserving of sympathy, but a thief who betrayed trust." He turned and gestured to the girl. "And sadly, we see the collateral damage. Right here is daughter, clinging to false hopes and wild promises. Lily stiffened. A few chuckles echoed in the benches. The prosecutor basked in the attention, his voice rising. Yesterday, we all heard her claim. She stood here in front of us all and said she would heal this honorable judge. Heal him. As if some child could do what the finest doctors in the state cannot. The courtroom erupted in laughter again. Some reporters scribbled eagerly, others shook their heads, smiling. Ethan's jaw tightened, and he slammed his shackled fists onto the table. "Leave her out of this," he barked. "She's just a child." The prosecutor grinned smugly, unbothered. A child, yes, but her words reveal the desperate delusions this family clings to. If the father is willing to steal, the daughter is willing to lie. Lily shot up from her bench, her face flushed red. "I'm not lying?" She cried, "I know what I can do. You'll see." "Order." Judge Hollis thundered, slamming the gavel. The echoes rattled through the chamber. His eyes flicked to Lily, but unlike yesterday, something different lingered in his gaze. A shadow of conflict. The prosecutor bowed slightly. "My apologies, Your Honor, but the child's outburst proves my point. This family is drowning in delusion." Ethan sat back down, his face pale with fury and helplessness. Lily sank into her seat again, tears streaming silently down her cheeks as the laughter faded. The next witness was called. A tall, imposing man named Richard Lane, the wealthy owner of the diner where Ethan once worked. He strutted to the stand, adjusting his expensive watch for all to see. His voice boomed with confidence. "Ethan Carter was always trouble," Richard declared. "Lazy, unreliable. I gave him a job out of pity, and how did he repay me? By stealing from my register." "That's not true," Ethan shouted, rising halfway from his chair before the bailiff pushed him back down. "I never stole a cent." Richard smirked. "Oh, please. The cameras caught you." The money disappeared. "Who else could it have been?" Lily's heart pounded. She wanted to scream, "You're lying." But her voice was small compared to the man's commanding tone. The prosecutor paced dramatically. "So, Mr. Lane, you're saying you caught him red-handed?" "Absolutely," Richard said, nodding. "And frankly, I'm not surprised. Look at him. Look at the life he lives. People like him always end up taking shortcuts." His words landed like daggers. Lily looked around desperately, but all she saw were nodding heads, judgmental stares. People like him. People like us. She felt her father shrinking under the weight of their condemnation. During the lunch recess, Lily sat outside on the courthouse steps. Children her age passed by with ice cream cones, pointing at her. One of them laughed, "Hey, miracle girl." "Heal me too." Another added, "Yeah, fix my broken toy while you're at it." They giggled and ran off, leaving Lily hugging her knees, her face buried against them. She whispered to herself, "I'm not lying. I'm not." A kind old janitor sweeping nearby paused, watching her. "Don't let them break you, child," he said softly. "Sometimes the smallest voices carry the biggest truths." She looked up at him, eyes red. "But nobody believes me." The janitor smiled sadly. They laughed at Noah too when he built the ark. Then he moved on, leaving her with a sliver of comfort. Back inside, the defense attorney finally called Ethan to the stand. His voice shook as he told his side, how he had been working late, how the cameras had been grainy, how he was framed. But the prosecutor tore into him like a wolf. "You expect us to believe," he sneered, "that the money just vanished? That someone else conveniently took it?" "Yes," Ethan pleaded. "That's exactly what happened." The prosecutor turned dramatically toward the jury. Or is this just another story, another fantasy like his daughter's miraculous powers? The jury shifted uncomfortably. Some smirked. Others avoided Lily's gaze. Ethan slammed his fists on the railing. "Don't you drag her into this?" The prosecutor only smirked, victorious. Judge Hollis watched silently, his fingers drumming against the polished wood of his wheelchair armrest. Outwardly, he remained composed, but inwardly, he felt the echoes of his own pain. The accident that had paralyzed him had stolen everything: his pride, his independence, his family's respect. And now, hearing this little girl's impossible promise, nodded him in a way he couldn't shake. Was it foolish hope? Or was it something else? As the second day dragged into evening, exhaustion weighed heavy. The judge called adjournment. The room emptied slowly, whispers buzzing again. Did you hear her today? Still claiming miracles. The father's guilty. You can see it in his eyes. That family's cursed. Lily lingered in the aisle, staring at the emptying courtroom. Her father was pulled away in chains again. She whispered fiercely, I won't stop, Daddy. I'll save you. Judge Hollis paused on his way out, hearing her words. For a fleeting moment, his stern mask cracked. His eyes softened, then hardened again. He wheeled himself away, but the sound of her voice haunted him like a ghost. That night, in his study, Judge Hollis sat by the fire. He stared at the framed photographs of his past life, a younger him on horseback, hiking mountains, standing tall beside his late wife. All memories of a man who once lived without limits now, bound to wheels and shadowed by pity. He clenched his fists until his knuckles whitened. Heal me, he muttered bitterly. What nonsense. But he couldn't silence the image of Lily's face, those eyes burning with conviction. The next morning, court resumed with heavier tension. The prosecutor brought forward the missing bills as evidence, claiming they had been recovered near Ethan's locker. Gasps filled the room. Lily's heart dropped. She knew her father would never steal. This had to be planted. But how could she prove it? The prosecutor grinned triumphantly. Ladies and gentlemen, the case is closed. This man is guilty. The jurors looked convinced. Ethan bowed his head, defeated. Lily's tiny fists clenched so tight her nails dug into her palms. She leaped to her feet, her voice cracking. No, he's innocent. He didn't do it. You're all wrong. Order. The judge roared, slamming the gavel, but she didn't stop. Please, Your Honor, you have to believe me. If you just free him, I'll heal you, I promise. The laughter returned, harsher this time. People shook their heads, chuckling, some even rolling their eyes. But Judge Hollis didn't laugh. He stared at her, torn between fury at her insolence, an annoying, relentless whisper in his soul. What if she's telling the truth? The third day of the trial dawned gray and heavy, as though even the sky shared the weight of what was to come. Clouds blanketed the sun, and raindrops streaked the courthouse windows like tears. Inside, the atmosphere was tense, thick enough to choke. Reporters perched eagerly on benches, ready for the final verdict of what had become the most talked-about case in town. The jury filed in with stoic faces, though their eyes hinted at impatience. Everyone seemed ready to close the chapter on Ethan Carter, the poor man accused of theft. The laughing-stock father of a delusional little girl. Lily sat silently at the back, her hands clasped tightly in prayer. Her eyes were swollen from sleepless nights, but the flame of determination still flickered within them. She whispered under her breath, Please, God, please don't let them take him away. When Ethan was escorted in, Lily's heart cracked again at the sight of chains around his wrists. He forced a brave smile for her, but she saw through it. He was breaking. And then Judge Hollis entered. As always, his wheelchair rolled with a quiet hum, his gavel resting on the bench like an extension of his will. Yet something in his face was different today, Toiter, more conflicted. He scanned the courtroom, his gaze brushing briefly against Lily's. For the first time, he didn't look away. Court is now in session, he said, though his voice carried less steel than before. The prosecutor wasted no time. He strode confidently to the center, lifting a sealed evidence bag containing crumpled bills. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the stolen money. Found in Ethan Carter's locker. Proof undeniable. The jurors nodded. The courtroom buzzed. Ethan rose, his voice hoarse. That's not mine. I've told you I never touched it. Someone planted it. The prosecutor smirked. Ah, yes. Another story? Another lie. Just like your daughter's fairy tales about healing. Laughter rippled again, crueler than ever. Lily flinched, tears brimming. She wanted to scream, to claw through the noise, but her voice felt swallowed by the sea of mockery. Judge Hollis banged the gavel. Order. Yet his hand trembled slightly as he did. The prosecutor turned dramatically toward the jury. This man is guilty. Let's not waste more time. Justice demands a verdict. He returned to his table with a smug grin, certain of victory. Just as the judge was about to call the jury for deliberation, a voice rose from the back. Shaky, but clear. Wait. All eyes turned. Lily stood, trembling, her small frame dwarfed by the towering walls of justice around her. Please. She begged, stepping forward. Please, just listen. My daddy didn't do this. He would never steal. He works so hard for me. He gives up food so I can eat. He fixes my shoes so I don't go barefoot. He sings me to sleep when I'm scared. Her voice cracked, but she pressed on, tears rolling freely now. You all laugh at me because I said I can heal the judge. But I wasn't lying. I know it sounds crazy, but I believe it. I know it in my heart. If you let him go, if you just give us a chance, I promise he'll walk again. The courtroom froze. Her words hung like lightning in the storm. The prosecutor scoffed loudly. Your Honor, this is absurd. Are we truly going to let a child's delusions stall justice? But something was stirring this time in the jury. For the first time, a few of them looked at Lily not with mockery, but with pity. Even with doubt, Judge Hollis stared down at her, his heart hammering. He wanted to dismiss her again, to call her a foolish child. Yet her voice pierced deeper than reason, reaching a place he had buried long ago, the place that still dreamed of standing, of walking, of living free from wheels. He clenched the armrests of his chair, his knuckles white. Little girl, he said slowly, do you realize what you're claiming? Yes, Lily said firmly, though tears still streamed down her cheeks. And I'm not afraid. Before Hollis could respond, a sudden commotion erupted at the back. The janitor, the same old man who had comforted Lily on the steps days before, hushed forward, his face pale. Your Honor, he cried, I can't keep quiet anymore. The courtroom gasped. Bailiffs moved to restrain him, but Hollis raised a hand. Let him speak. The janitor's hand shook as he pointed at Richard Lane, the wealthy diner owner who had testified so confidently. It was him. I saw him. He planted that money. The room exploded in chaos. Gasps, shouts, reporters scribbling furiously. Richard's face went red. That's a lie, he barked. This man is nothing. Just a janitor? But the janitor's voice grew stronger. I was cleaning the hall near the lockers that night. I saw you. You thought nobody noticed, but I did. You shoved that money into Ethan's locker, and I've carried the guilt ever since. Shock rippled through the crowd. The prosecutor's jaw dropped. The jurors exchanged wide-eyed glances. Lily's heart leapt. Her father's innocence finally had a voice. Richard sputtered. This is outrageous. Why would I do such a thing? Judge Hollis's eyes narrowed. Perhaps because Ethan Carter knew too much. Perhaps because a poor man working in your diner saw things you didn't want seen. Ethan's head shot up, realization dawning. The broken invoices, he said hoarsely. The missing tax records. I saw them. You were skimming from your own business, weren't you? Richard froze, sweat glistening on his forehead. The courtroom roared with gasps again. Judge Hollis slammed his gavel. Enough. Bailiff detained Mr. Lane for questioning. As Richard was dragged out protesting, Ethan turned to Lily, tears of relief flooding his eyes. You did it, baby girl. You saved me. But Lily shook her head. Not me. The truth did. Silence fell again as Judge Hollis looked out over the courtroom. His voice, though steady, carried a tremor of emotion. This court finds Ethan Carter not guilty. The words crashed through the air like thunder. Lily cried out with joy, racing into her father's arms as chains were removed. The crowd erupted in shocked chatter, reporters scribbling frantically. Ethan clutched his daughter tightly, his tears soaking her hair. I'm free, Lily. I'm free because of you. But Lily's gaze shifted to the judge. She stepped forward, her small hands clutching the bench. And now, it's your turn. The room hushed. All eyes turned to Judge Hollis. My turn, he asked, his voice barely more than a whisper. Lily nodded, her eyes shining with an almost otherworldly certainty. I promised. If you freed my dad, I'd heal you. A nervous laugh rippled through the crowd. Some whispered, others scoffed, but Hollis couldn't move. His throat tightened, his hands shook against the wood. You can't. He stammered. The doctor said. I can, Lily said softly. But only if you believe. The air grew electric, thick with anticipation. Judge Hollis closed his eyes. For years he had carried the weight of hopelessness, the prison of paralysis. But now, this small girl, this child who had moved heaven and earth for her father, was offering him something no doctor ever could. Hope, his voice cracked. Show me. Lily stepped closer, placing her tiny hand over his trembling one. The courtroom leaned forward, breathless. She whispered, You're stronger than you think. Your body remembers. Stand, Your Honor, stand. For a long, agonizing moment, nothing happened. Then Hollis felt it. A tingling, faint but real in his legs. His eyes shot open in disbelief. Gasps filled the air as he pushed against the armrests. Slowly, shakily, his body rose. His knees wobbled, his frame trembled, but he stood. He stood. The courtroom erupted, screams, cheers, gasps, sobs. Reporters dropped their pens, jurors covered their mouths. Bailiffs froze in awe. Tears streamed down Hollis's face as he looked at Lily, then at the courtroom. For years, he whispered, I thought hope was dead. But this child, she reminded me, faith makes the impossible possible. He turned to Ethan and Lily, his voice breaking. I owe you both a debt I can never repay. The trial ended not just with justice, but with a miracle. Ethan walked free, Lily radiant with joy, and Judge Hollis forever changed not just by standing, but by finally seeing the truth that the smallest voices, the most unlikely hearts, often carry the greatest power. As the courthouse emptied, whispers turned to shouts of awe. Reporters didn't mock Lily anymore. They called her the girl who healed the judge. But Lily only smiled and hugged her father's hand tighter. I told you, Daddy. I promised. This story reminds us that sometimes the world laughs at those who dare to hope. But hope, when held with love and faith, is stronger than ridicule, stronger than fear, and stronger than doubt. We must never underestimate the voice of a child, the courage of the innocent, or the power of believing in the impossible. Because miracles are often hidden in the hearts of those the world dismisses.